Israel's military is looking into whether Hamas's top leader Yahya Sinwar was killed in a military operation in Gaza. Ukraine will be a member of NATO in the future, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said on Thursday. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that North Korea's support for Russia would be a first step towards a world war.
Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar was killed by Israeli soldiers during ground operations in Gaza, according to the Israeli foreign minister. Sinwar, who Israel accused of being the architect of the October the 7th surprise attack which killed 1,200 Israelis, was announced as Hamas's new head following the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh. The IDF said in a statement that at least 3 militants were killed in a building and that they were checking the possibility that Sinwar was amongst that number. They later confirmed it was. European leaders meeting in Brussels are discussing the proposal of the European Commission to open deportation centres outside the EU borders. The Commission has lately embraced the ideas of the hard right on migration. The change in the Commission's mentality has pleased several countries. One of them is Greece, which has been accused by several NGOs of carrying out illegal returns.
The Pact for Migration and Asylum does not address the question of returns. We cannot accept the fact that we are not effective to deal with those who are not entitled to protection status in the European Union. I'm eager to find out more about the innovative solutions proposed by the Commission, and I'm happy about the fact that we recognize that we need to think out of the box.
One of the examples would be the return centre that Italy has recently opened in Albania. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has been one of the promoters of a meeting with several like-minded leaders, which was also attended by the President of the European Commission. But although few in number, there are also detractors, like Spain's Pedro Sanchez and Belgium's Alexander De Croo.
Je pense que toutes ces solutions de migration hub, qu'on les appelle, dans le passé, ça n'a jamais montré que c'est très effectif et ça a duré très très cher. Ce qui fonctionne, c'est des accords avec des pays tiers.
Leaders are not expected to reach any agreement on migration at this summit.
Ukraine will be a member of NATO in the future, Secretary General Mark Rutte said from the alliance's headquarters in Brussels on Thursday. Despite hesitation, NATO members voted in July for Ukraine to join the intergovernmental military alliance.
He has to be absolutely assured that 32 allies are united in making sure that collectively we will do whatever is needed to make sure that Ukraine can prevail, that Putin will not get his way.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was also in the Belgian capital to seek support from European leaders for his victory plan. The proposal comprises 5 points to defeat Russian President Vladimir Putin and his country's 3-year full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The first point in the plan is receiving an invitation to join NATO.
%84% of Ukrainians want their country to be a member of NATO. 2.5 years into the full-scale invasion, and the level of this support is not just stable, it's only growing. Ukrainians understand that if they were at NATO, Russia would not have invaded first in 2014 and then in 2022. NATO repeatedly talked about its open door policy towards Ukraine, but it did not go beyond that. So even if NATO doors remain open, Ukraine has not been able to enter them. NATO has declared Ukraine will join its ranks and its path to the alliance is irreversible. But it has said Kyiv cannot join while at war and declined to put a timeline on membership. Kyiv, on the other hand, insists that Ukraine needs NATO to finish and win the war. One of the ideas which has been wildly circulating in the media over the past few weeks is the West Germany model. Now, it entails admitting only those parts of the country into NATO over which Kyiv exercises complete control. Now, it has been 2 years since Ukraine has liberated the city of Kherson and the right bank of the region. Until now, that territory is controlled by Ukraine and at the same time is shelled and attacked daily with artillery and drones by the Russian army. Where would this demarcation line be in Kherson region? There is no Ukrainian wall in Ukraine to have a clear understanding of a possible demarcation line, while even Lviv, the city in western Ukraine, less than 100 kilometers from the border with Poland and with NATO, is being attacked by Russia. Not only this idea would be hard to sell to the existing NATO members who will surely question the NATO borders in Ukraine, but it would be almost impossible to implement for Ukrainians. Firstly, due to the legal limitations. This would require changes in the constitution, which cannot be made during the martial law. Secondly, 2.5 years into the full-scale invasion, almost every Ukrainian family has someone at the front lines. Many lost their loved ones. Many are waiting for their family members to come back from Russian captivity. It will be very hard for Zelensky to tell these people that some of the territories will be protected by NATO, but others won't be. And Volodymyr Zelensky knows it very well. He knows that in this case, the hardest and the most complicated, if not impossible, negotiations he can face will not be with NATO or the US. It will be with the people he represents.
President of the Republic of Cyprus, Nikos Christodoulides, is in favor of more strategic agreements with third countries on migration. Speaking to Euronews, the Cypriot president revealed that the EU's agreement with Lebanon has delivered results. The agreement allocated economic aid to Beirut in exchange for cooperation for curbing illegal immigration to Europe. Christodoulides is now ready to discuss other possible solutions, including new return hubs.
Αλλά θεωρώ ότι είμαστε έτοιμοι να εξετάσουμε όλες τις επιλογές εκτός του κουτιού, επιλογές όμως που να συμβαδίζουν και με το διεθνές ανθρωπιστικό δίκαιο, να είναι μέσα στο πλαίσιο. Γι' αυτό το είπα και σήμερα. Σε αυτήν την προσπάθεια που κάνουμε θα πρέπει να είναι μαζί μας και η ΥΠΑΤΗ αρμοστία για τους πρόσφυγες, για να διασφαλίζουμε ότι αυτό που κάνουμε είναι εντός του πλαισίου. Και πιστέψτε με, υπάρχουν επιλογές οι οποίες, ναι, θα βοηθήσουν από τη μια να αντιμετωπίσουμε αυτή τη μεγάλη πρόκληση, πάντα εντός του πλαισίου της διεθνούς νομιμότητας.
Cyprus is one of the first EU countries to push for normalization of relations with Syria in order to facilitate the return of immigrants. Since the 2011 civil war, many refugees that fled to Lebanon are trying to reach Cyprus, which is just off its shores. But the Cypriot president is setting some necessary conditions.
Και δεν μιλώ για το καθεστώς του Άσαντ που οι θέσεις μας είναι κοινές. Αυτό όμως δεν πρέπει να μας παρεμποδίζει από το να συζητήσουμε το θέμα της επιστροφής Συρίων στη χώρα τους. Αλλά για να επιστρέψουν αυτοί οι άνθρωποι θα πρέπει να υπάρχουν υποδομές. Αν δεν υπάρχουν νοσοκομεία, αν δεν υπάρχουν σχολεία, αν δεν υπάρχουν δρόμοι, δεν μπορούν αυτοί οι άνθρωποι να επιστρέψουν.
The interview took place a few hours after the Cypriot leaders' trilateral meeting with the UN Secretary General and the Turkish Cypriot leader as part of the effort to resume negotiations on the divided island 7 years after talks in Crans-Montana ended without a peace and reunification deal.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Nikos Christodoulides explains why this is important for the EU.
Αν έχουμε ένα κράτος που δεν μπορεί να λειτουργήσει εσωτερικά, δεν θα μπορεί να λειτουργήσει όταν έρχεται και στις Βρυξέλλες. Το δεύτερο, Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση. Είναι κοινή θέση μέσα από τα συμπεράσματα ότι όλοι θέλουμε να δούμε να υπάρχει πρόοδος στις ευρωτουρκικές σχέσεις. Αυτή η πρόοδος περνάει και από το Κυπριακό.
The island remains divided since 1974 due to the Turkish military operation and a coup d'etat.
La inmigración es el tema estrella de la cumbre europea que se celebra en Bruselas y hasta aquí llega el gobierno de Sánchez con un no en la maleta. España se ha mostrado claramente opuesta a la propuesta de crear centros de internamiento en terceros países fuera de las fronteras de la Unión Europea para trasladar allí a todos los migrantes que hayan accedido de forma ilegal a su territorio. Esta propuesta, impulsada por el gobierno italiano de Meloni, se pone ahora sobre la mesa de la Comisión Europea y lo hace con el apoyo de la mayoría de los países miembros. Sin embargo, la propuesta no ha sido bien recibida por el gobierno de Sánchez, que a través de su portavoz ejecutiva, Pilar Alegría, ya ha dicho que se muestra en contra y que sigue apostando por una aplicación humanitaria y solidaria del Pacto de Migración y Asilo en Europa. Y eso a pesar de que España, una de las principales puertas de entrada de la migración africana a Europa, vive desde hace meses una crisis migratoria que ha obligado al gobierno incluso a improvisar centros de acogida en hoteles de todo el territorio nacional. De hecho, la inmigración se ha convertido en la principal preocupación de los españoles, según el barómetro del CIS. 1 de cada 3 encuestados ha dicho este verano que el primer problema de España es la inmigración, cuando hace tan solo unos meses se situaba en cuarto lugar. Todo ha cambiado en cuestión de meses en España. Javier García, en Sevilla, para Euronews.
Thousands of attendees are flooding Paris's historic Grand Palais for 2 days of Art Basel Paris Fair previews. More than 190 international galleries are exhibiting works by some of the industry's biggest names, such as pop art pioneer Andy Warhol to polka dot proliferator Yayoi Kusuma.
It is very fair to say it's been a very eventful year for us. We changed names, we changed the venue. The venue is much more, glorious and magnificent, and we could add 41 galleries, so it's a substantial change for us.
The event comes as Paris cements itself as one of Europe's leading art sales capitals. One arts publicity and consultancy organisation representative says this was buoyed due to Britain leaving the EU in 2020.
Brexit played a part, of course, because then Paris became more attractive to some of the people in the art business. It's not the main reason, though. We had a very strong cultural landscape here as well. We have new museums opening every year. We have new dealers setting up shop in Paris every year.
Art Basel Paris opens to the public on Saturday and Sunday, with many able to see the best and most colourful pieces of performance art, installations, paintings and more of the last century.